Hey folks, your OS Reviews. You're watching our retro throwback tour of the Dell Inspiron Mini 10. This is, as you can guess, a 10-inch netbook that originally ran on Windows XP Home Edition, and it was priced at around $540 with basic configurations. However, now you can find it online through Amazon and eBay for a secondhand price of under $100. So the bigger question here is whether or not it's worthwhile when you can also find brand new tablets, let's say running on Windows 10 these days, for about the same price point. If you're still looking for, let's say, a netbook in terms of the form factor. So the Inspiron Mini 10 has a pretty sleek overall design. It does have a very glossy material on the front that attracts a fair amount of fingerprints as well as dust as you start using it. However, overall, it is a fairly petite as well as easy to carry around size for a netbook. And in terms of ports, it does have quite a few ways for you to expand on peripherals as well as accessories. So you can see here on the left, there's a standard Dell charger. There's also a USB 2.0 port on the left-hand edge. And then if we turn all the way around to the right-hand spine, you have access to additional two more USB 2.0 ports in addition to a full-size HDMI port here. And there's also a 3.5mm headphone jack right next to a 3.5mm audio jack for inserting a microphone. And here is also a full-size Ethernet port if you don't want to use the built-in Wi-Fi. So again, in terms of competing with the tablet, this one definitely has a lot more connectivity options. So if you're always looking for more keyboards, hard drives to connect to, this might still be a slightly better option. With that being said, you can see the battery here is quite bulky. There's even extension batteries that you can purchase that allows you to increase the capacity ever so slightly. Since this was coming out in around 2009, 2010, it was back when even netbooks still had running fans. So in order for it to cool down the processor, which by the way is an Intel Atom chipset clocked at around 1.6 gigahertz, it's part of the Z series. It's adequate, I guess, for most programs. Some light web browsing, you'll be fine. For word processing, editing, you'll be okay. But for more intensive tasks, obviously it's not going to be as great. With that being said, again, it does require some fans in order for the entire computer to remain cool. So that drains the battery a little bit more and adds a slight amount of ambient noise, something that you don't find in a lot of these lower powered, more silent chipsets produced by Intel lately. Otherwise, there's rubber feet that prevents the netbook from sliding around on a surface or a desk. So if we open up the netbook next and take a quick look, there's an LED light on here as well. Other wireless configuration options, aside from Wi-Fi, you could get optional Bluetooth on board as well. So again, pretty fully stocked as far as connectivity goes. So in terms of design here, it does have a pretty sleek looking overall, I would say, hardware, considering its low price point and the fact that it came out quite a few years ago. One of the things that you'll notice immediately is that the screen itself is completely flush. So even though it isn't a touchscreen panel, it remains fairly sleek and looks quite elegant. Down below here, you have access to a keyboard, which although isn't full size, Dell did take advantage of the size that they had to work with by making the keys fairly large. It's not an island style or a chiclet style keyboard, but it does the job in terms of typing by feel, and you get used to it after a few minutes of processing as well as emailing. Over here we have the trackpad, which is a little bit small, but it is a multi-touch enabled trackpad. It is a one-touch trackpad in the sense that you can press down on it to activate the click key, so you don't have dedicated controls for left and right. So it's a pretty modern trackpad that is fairly responsive, although again limited by its size, mainly its height, so you have to do a bit more scrolling or also jack up the sensitivity through the settings. Again, we have Windows XP as the native operating system. It can be also updated to Windows 8 if you want to. It runs okay, but XP I would still say is the best operating system for this case because it's quite light, it's very optimized, and most of your tasks and programs will still run fine. Obviously, as a netbook, as opposed to a full-size computer, you do lose out on some of the essentials like a physical DVD drive or a Blu-ray drive if you're still looking for that. But this one trades in that for more portability, the ability to give presentations when on the go and connect it to a projector with that full-size HDMI port, which is really quite useful. So again, the keyboard here has a few standard controls as well as the dedicated arrow keys on the very top, number keys, as well as media keys for the volume, for also Wi-Fi, for the battery, arrow keys down below here, along with a power on-off switch. Something else I like about the design of the Dell Inspiron Mini 10 is the fact that the hinge is extremely sturdy. It's almost integrated into the battery component, and it's a one-piece folding hinge, quite similar to today's MacBooks and MacBook Pros, as opposed to a two-piece on either side that is a lot more fragile. This one seems to last a lot longer, and the motion is a lot more fluid when you open and close up the netbook. Otherwise, if we take a quick look again on the display here, you have a pretty standard panel. It's not full HD by any stretch, but colors are fairly vibrant. It has decent viewing angles at the time, but again, it's not touch sensitive unless you want to add that feature by yourself. So it's really just here to make the experience, I guess, a bit more sleek. And as far as viewing back some images, browsing the web, it didn't really create any issues either. The very top of the machine does have a front-facing camera, so you could do Skype as well as other video chatting applications as well. So ultimately, I would say that here in 2016 and as we head into 2017, really, the Dell Inspiron Mini 10 still remains a decent choice if you're looking for an entry-level netbook and you can find it at a very low cost. However, I have to say that when pitted against similarly priced tablets that are coming out as new today, it doesn't perform quite as well, even though this obviously has a keyboard and a trackpad, and it's a bit easier to use when you're file managing. The processor here was an older generation Intel Atom, which already is quite a slow chipset, but today's Bay Trail processors are much faster and much more responsive, and overall better if you're looking for entertainment and apps. But this one still does a decent job if you're giving presentations because of that full-size port, in addition to the overall fairly sleek and elegant form factor. Thanks for watching this retro tour of the Dell Inspiron Mini 10, and here at OS Reviews.